CI, it's 100 plus. We can join. I think we can begin. Right.
Am I audible and visible to everyone? I am. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our 11 days of capacity building program. Today is day 4, and we have with us Dr. Navtika Singh Nautiyal, who will be discussing the topic of designing curriculum and syllabus, creating a balance between conventional and contemporary requirements. Before we begin, it is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker, who is an assistant professor at the School of Law, Forensic Justice and Policy Studies at the National Forensic Sciences University, Delhi. With over 12 years of teaching and research experience, Dr. Nautiyal brings rich interdisciplinary expertise across law, technology, and human rights. She's a postdoctoral fellow from MICHR Italy and a PhD holder in intercountry adoption laws, and has authored numerous research papers, edited volumes with leading publishers, and presented her work globally, including at the worldwide GAGE conferences in Indonesia and South Africa. Ma'am, we are honored to have you with us today. Shall I share your PPT or will you be?
Check it. Ma'am has been made co-host with us. See ya.
Yes,
Ma'am has
now
rights.
I have the rights. Thank you.
Right.
I'll be sharing my presentation myself. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Although, you have made it more wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
ma'am.
Dr. Jasleen, for having me here, and Dr. Kalpesh Gupta sir for having me here. Many congratulations to the team for selecting this wonderful topic. And indeed, it is need of the hour, because whenever we go to different meetings and see the syllabus or see the curriculum of that particular law school or any of the school, let me just put up in that way, there is no mapping. In different spheres, we say that the syllabus, course objective, and the course outcome has to be mapped together. At times the faculties are so new, they don't know even how to map them. They don't know how to understand different levels of pedagogies, different understandings of curriculum. So to make them aware about this, that it's not mere syllabus, you will go to the class and teach and come back. It's complete curriculum, or in particular semester, that you have to engage the learners. I'm not using the word here students, because in NEP it has been put up in a very rightful manner that they're not student anymore, they're learners, and they're here to be to learn together. We the faculty members are no more teachers, we are facilitators. We are facilitating, or the guide, I can say, in the way we are taking them to a journey of that particular subject. And in that particular journey, they learn the syllabus, they learn different aspects of that particular, curriculum. They learn even the field visit or different kind of, approaches to that particular a particular subject, need of the particular subject. So just saying that let's develop a syllabus is one thing, and developing a complete curriculum of that subject is different thing. Let me tell you here at my university, how we develop a particular curriculum. Even we prepare a complete complete, we call it course policy. We develop a complete course policies which is in a detailed manner. I'm sure some of the universities, as Jasleen ma'am has noted, even they must be following this, that there is micro teaching plans, there are macro teaching plans, there is everyday learning lesson plans in that particular curriculum. We give that thing to the learner, so that they are well aware that when what will happen, where, how, and what is the pedagogy. So friends, in this I have made a presentation, and I tried to give an outlook of that particular thing. I am sure there will be hundreds of doubts, there will be different questions to your mind, that how am I gonna to develop a particular curriculum. Question number 1. Question number 2 is, what kind of approaches I shall have while I'm developing a curriculum. It could be your first 5 years to the teaching. If it is first 5 years, these questions are are fine. You shall have all those questions. If there are plus 10 years of teaching and experience, then you shall know that you have reached to a level or to a threshold where the techniques, tools, and different kind of pedagogies to understand the curriculum you shall have. If you are not having it is I can say that this faculty development program is for you. So let's learn how, why, and what is a curriculum, how it is different from syllabus, what are the techniques uh, to make a curriculum, and how the conventional, because there are two different things to this particular lecture madam has given me, that how the contemporary and the conventional methodology to develop a curriculum, how these two approaches are different, and what are the major takeaways from this presentation. So, with this brief introduction, I am sharing my presentation um, to you all. Please do let me know the moment they are being shared. I have to share the entire screen because it is not allowing me to share the PPTs. So I'm sharing the entire screen. Please bear with me.
Shared.
Somebody has muted me. Was my presentation audible, like visible to you all?
Yes, yes. It's, right. Earlier it was, now the whole screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Is it
Yeah.
visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
perfectly.
ma'am.
Yes.
So let's understand how we can design the curriculum and syllabus, and what is the balance between conventional and contemporary requirement. This is the synopsis of my presentation, how I have divided and try to take you all to the step by step understanding, because it takes time to understand this kind of topic, because developing a curriculum itself is a challenge, and there are hands-on trainings, there are workshop, there are weekly workshop which takes you or which makes you understand that how can you develop a curriculum. So first we'll understand what is the background, then difference between objectives and outcome, because it is very necessary for us to see that what is the objective and outcome of that particular syllabus. Then how we can understand what are the differences between a curriculum and a syllabus. Why curriculum matters is also one of the important things, my friends, which we have to understand, because as I have told you, curriculum is like a complete pathway, it's a map, how the how that particular learner is going to understand that particular subject is the curriculum. Then what is the need for curriculum development? Because we are telling the learner in the very beginning that this is the, for example, this is one of the subject X, and how he or she will learn that particular subject X is the curriculum development. There are 10 core principles, there are multiple principles. I have only taken the 10 principles of curriculum development. Then we are gonna to see what are the stages of curriculum development, then what is types of curriculum, there are few dynamics also of the curriculum which we have to see along with the models of curriculum development. Then we are going to differentiate between conventional curriculum design and contemporary curriculum design, and then what are the implementation challenges, after even understanding everything, that this is this is subject, this is syllabus, this is curriculum. Then why it is so difficult for us to say that okay, let's implement it. Even we have seen that post covid, or during the covid, this virtual interaction has become such an easy thing. Earlier it was not part of the pedagogy that you can teach anybody virtual. There were very few youtube tutors, or there were facilitators, but now everything you can do virtually. This is new normal now, but before covid it was difficult. So there are advancements and there are challenges. So how we can understand those challenges is this. So first of all, let's understand what is this word curriculum. This word has come from the Latin word that is crux, which means a chariot or a runaway. uh, you must have seen the runway. That what is the runway? For example, a runway is the path where anything can go. It can be a road also, but road can be divided further, this thing sublets. But runway is one thing which gives you the speed, which gives you the focused methodology of going. It has the same meaning of the word curse, and in hindi we say karyakram. So in the word karyakram is the same meaning of curriculum in the Latin or English. It says that any program undertaken to be completed by individual or a group. So how an individual or a group of people or group of learners can complete something, it's called curriculum. Curriculum is a program of different activities. So it's not only, for example, I am teaching them let's say defamation. So I'm teaching them, okay, this is defamation, these are features of defamation, this is completed. No, it also involves various activities of learning. For example, I am giving them a case method, that okay, go and read this particular x case and tell me how defamation has done, how court has decided the compensation. Or when I'm teaching them justifications to defamation, then they get to know that okay, in this particular case, this particular x justification has been applied. So different activities to particular learning or studies. This is, or why we are doing this in making that particular thing learn, so that the student, because teaching is one thing, engaging is another thing. In curriculum we engage the students in the learning process so that the learning will becomes easy. Curriculum design shapes educational philosophies and outcome. So you know uh, there is a famous quote I remember here. It says that teach me, I'll remember, involve me, I'll part of it, but engage me, I learn to it. So curriculum gives you that engagement, that the person learns the philosophy and you can say that it is the outcome of my learning. Now friends, in the introduction itself, there are understanding to the curriculum development. It's the process of selecting, organizing, executing, evaluating the learning experience on the basis of the needs, abilities, and interest of the learner. So for example, there are three kinds of learners in my class. There are very good learners, there are good learners, and there are slow learners. Okay, so can I have the same methodology for three of the learners? My answer is no. So that is why, in the curriculum, you make few of the activities for very good learners and you make even some activities for the low learner. So this is why, because we have to see that how the learners are developing their learning needs. So curriculum development gives me that option, because syllabus would be same. I cannot teach them 20% and 30% to them. No. Can I do so? Answer is no. No teacher can done away or taken out from the syllabus that okay, for my low learners I'm going to teach 30% only, because they are not able to understand 100%. That is not the case. What is the case is, for my low learners I am gonna to give them an activity, for example a group activity for my X topic, so that there will be low learners and there will be good learners, and those two people will form a group, and that pacer who's going on the very speed will take my low learner together. And what am I gonna to understand the critical challenge of my class, that how I'm gonna to keep the pace, I'm taking both of them together. So that is the beauty of curriculum development. Then innovative and demand driven curriculum enables a college or university to remain relevant and to be one step ahead of its rivals. How come? You must have seen that in NEP also, it has become one of the challenge that what is your curriculum? Nobody asks for syllabus. Everybody look at the curriculum, that how well you have defined the curriculum. Also in NAC, if you've been part to the NAC committee, they look to the curriculum, that how you are designing it. What are your gray areas, how you have colored your gray areas, how you are meet up the challenges for everybody. So that is the beauty of the curriculum. In the school development, how curriculum work is, it involves different techniques and methods for developing, designing, implementing, improving the curriculum. It's a continuous process. One more mistake what generally we all do is, once we have developed the curriculum, we don't dare or bother to revise it or revisit it. It's one of the challenge, or one of the, what shall I say, that uh, black dot, that you have to revisit. You have to improve the curriculum in every other year of your class. For example, in 2025 academic year, I got X set of students, I have to revisit my curriculum of the same subject with the same syllabus for my Y set of students for my 2026 academic year. So, like, because you already had an experience in 2025, there may be some gray areas, there may be some challenges, there may be some new topics which you got to see that okay, I need to add them in curriculum. There may be some good read. uh, 1 second. I'm really sorry. I'll tell you, beta. Abhi mom is busy. I'm really sorry for this. So, this we have to see. Now, let's understand. I've been asked by my young friends that how we make learning objectives and learning outcomes as a part of curriculum. Like, what the problem is, we have been given the syllabus passed by different councils and different board of studies, but how to have that mapping? If I'm not going again for the blues taxonomy, I'm not talking about it, I'm not going it. But if you know your subject, my friends, for example, let's take legal method as a subject. If you know that legal method will achieve X, Y, and Z thing, then you will be able to make it subjective. So first understand your subject, that okay, I am having X subject. Question number one, I am having the need of this subject. Why am I teaching this subject? When you will be knowing yourself that why you are teaching that subject, then there will be objectivity to improve the education quality. Special efforts you need to put in, including it into the curriculum. Question number one. Second is, to improve the quality and relevance of the curriculum. So when you know that why am I teaching that subject, then you have to see that adding this particular objective will give the quality to the curriculum. Then also the learning objective been given to improve the quality and linkage to teaching, learning and assessment. It's like this: out of hundreds of the different things, I am going to give these 5 objectives to my students. They are gonna to learn objective number 1, objective number 2, objective number 3, objective number 4. How we do is, there are 4 units, we are making 4 objectives. Unit number 1, one objective. Unit number 2, second objective. Unit number 3, third objective. It shall not be like that. It may be possible that unit number 1 has 2 different things, 2 different approaches. You have to give 2 objectives from unit number 1. So friends, you have to see that what your unit, I'm now coming to the subset of the syllabus, that what your unit is telling you. That, for example, it gives you, I'm coming to the taxonomy. It says that students will understand the meaning and key factors of something. So that would be your first objective. First unit itself say that the students will be able to comprehend about the qualities and capabilities of X thing. That is your second objective. So it may be possible, but there are few units. For example, unit number 3 is all about the detailed version of unit number 2. So it may be possible unit 2 and 3 you are making one single objective. So please read, see the syllabus, just think from the side of students that what they are gonna to learn out of it. Those are the objectives of your syllabus. Now coming to the outcomes, it's like the same, like key features are the objectives, outcome is the understanding that what is coming out of it. Like for example, after reading, after studying legal methods, what the students outcome is, they will be able to understand different methodologies of law. For example, there may be some research part, they will learn basics of research. For example, there may be some jurisprudential basics of jurisprudential aspects, some law or legal research. Those are the outcomes. That, for example, those objectives you made, that okay, unit number 1 is giving understanding, unit number 1.2 is giving comprehension, unit number 3 is giving critical analysis. So are those things being achieved? Those are your outcomes. It says that you emphasized on the methodology of curriculum and assessment, that okay, in my outcome the students has learned X, Y and Z. So these are your outcomes. Now usually we use the word curriculum and syllabus synonymously. My friends, curriculum is the broader version, broader educational framework. Syllabus is part of it. Syllabus is the specific course outline. So course content is curriculum, course outline is syllabus. Mind it, course content is the complete course content is curriculum. Course outline, that okay, unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever number of units are there, specific course outline. Syllabus does not have the outcome. Syllabus may have the part of objective. Syllabus may have, I'm saying may have, okay. Syllabus may have part of how much this thing they have, what is the weightage of that particular subject. Syllabus may have it, but syllabus may not have the part of how you are going to achieve it. Syllabus may have a part of necessary readings, essential reading, but syllabus may not have the part of broader outline of research topic. So this is the basic difference between a curriculum and a syllabus. If you have any question, you may write it in the chat box. I'll take all those questions at the end of my lecture. Now, why the curriculum design matters? Friends, a curriculum designing is important, and different stakeholders from industry, from academia, from practices, all those people sit together and design a curriculum. It's so important because those particular things, they are the background of that particular subject. Because for example, I am not able to teach them, let's say again, nuisance to my learners in thoughts. That is the basis for the criminal wrong. If I'm not able to teach them properly, because there were no civil and criminal nuisance available in tort. That is why the quality, or or coherence, and also societal relevance is necessary while designing the matter. What is societal relevance is, after studying that particular subject, how the learner will give back that particular subject's relevance to the society. That is also important. So not only law matters, that okay, law is a social relevant subject. The other subject also, there has to be societal relevance for that particular subject. Then the why it matters, it aligns the learners for the national goals. We have seen nowadays, at least everybody sees that, okay, teach them with respect to sustainable development goal. We're having events with respect to sustainable development goals. So why the curriculum becomes the part to the different national and international goals, because to give them that apprehension that okay, this particular subject will have a connection to that particular national or international goals. Then there are four quadrants: learner, society, industry, and academia. Whenever any curriculum being designed, those four quadrants, even student matters, because those are the learners who will be having, or they already learned that particular subject. Their peers or their juniors are going to understand that particular subject. So they becomes the part of that curriculum designing. What is the need for curriculum development? As we have discussed in the very beginning, I'll quickly take those needs. First is educational goals are changing. We have seen when we were having the school education or college education, and when I become the teacher in the initial years, and when I'm teaching today, the teaching has changed. We no more teach, we engage them, we involve them, we make them part of the classroom learning. So educational goals are changing, my friends. Let's understand the need of both students and the society with respect to that subject. If it is mapping, we are having the right curriculum. Globalization helps in continuous and comprehensive education, especially with respect to the school education. I'm telling you, the globalization and different standards there matters the most, and for them only the curriculum has been developed differently. Next is innovation is educational technology. We are talking about LLM methods. We are talking about different kind of GPTs. We are talking about AI. We are talking about all those kinds of things. We are discussing that whether AI made project is acceptable or not. This is education. I was reading one particular opinion of one professor. He said that if student is saving time, making a project from chat gpt, it is not failure of that student, it's a failure of the teacher who gave that particular topic. You have to make those particular topic, even the students will start thinking about it. That is kind of innovation in educational technology. The AI has not made our work easy, AI has made our work challenging, that we have to give our students that kind of task that they will be able to think, rather than asking the chat gpt or different kinds of AI tools and giving the answers. Next is knowledge economy demands. My friends, this is very important because we are from the social science background. Today, the knowledge economy demands that we have to develop those kind of curriculum where there will be knowledge equally and there will be job opportunities equally. Curriculum planners also plan to facilitate learning for students. It's not only you go teach come back, you have to take your students that okay, let's plan this particular topic. And also one question I've been asked, one of my fellow friend in a different university asked me, okay, I got this X subject to teach, can you tell me how to teach, because I have never taught that particular subject and I find it very challenging. It was labor laws. Okay, labor law itself is a very dry subject. I think those who are teaching labor law, they may agree. I was like, how to teach labor law? It's like there are so many judgments, there are so many different developments in approaches. Why don't you teach, rather than only teaching from those four legislations of labor laws, that okay, I'm gonna to teach X Y Z, rather than teaching them, just teach them that why that particular legislation has come, and what were the struggle behind it, and where are the gray areas, rather than teaching plain sections to them. Then he asked me a question that, don't you think so that the students are need to write in the exam? I was like, when they will know the concept, they will easily be able to write. Rather than teaching them X section says this thing, why we are not telling them why X section has been created? And that was my understanding of developing a curriculum for a particular subject, a subject which has four bare acts to be taught to the student. Can we teach section to section, even one particular 100 sections in one semester? I don't think so. We will be able to teach 100 complete sections. And why we teach 100 sections? Because in practice they will have bare acts with them. We have to teach them that those 100 sections or 200 sections, 300 sections, what are the concepts behind them, why those 300 sections being made. That is called how to facilitate the learning for students, to create independent thinking and self-reliance. Nowadays we are talking about critical thinking, we are talking about analytical thinking, we are talking about thinking quotient, we are talking about all those understanding. We are also talking about open book test. Okay, give the question paper and book to the student, let the student write. What all those things are? Those are giving them independent thinking and self reliance. Even if they'll have all the sources, they have to think, apply the law and write. That is the need for curriculum development. Then evaluation and purposeful activities. Gone were the days, my friends, where Socratic method of teaching was the best method. Now you have to have debates also, you have to have discussions also, you have to have quiz also, you have to have some days taking them to field visits also, you have to give them some self study topics also. You can't teach complete syllabus to them. So all those things gives the value, evaluation, some purposeful activity. Like for example, I am giving them okay, let's see a movie on defamation and give me the comment on X, factor of defamation has done on that movie, and what is your movie review? I'm not talking about the movie review of a complete movie. I'm talking about movie review of one particular law which has been challenged. For that, he or she will watch the movie, he or she will read about defamation, he or she will even be able to think and write and understand how to write a movie review. So that is the purposeful activity. Helps in the selection of a learning experience. Yes, the different activities in the curriculum development. For example, self study. I'm giving them X topic. Okay, this topic I'm not gonna to teach. You guys need to study it, but you have to study in group or peer. It is different kind of experience, my friends, where, and this is very important, I request and urge you all, please add this activity in your curriculum. Look at the different topics which has to be self studied, because nowadays the human touch, human interaction of these generation people, they are not having compatibility together, they are living in their own cocoon. So please give them exercises which will be group based, which will be which will not be individual, because this individualistic approach which they are having, that is very 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 dangerous for their professional development. The next one is needed for the appropriate selection and organization of learning experiences. Yes, different kind of topics, different kinds of selections are very much required, because when you will develop a right curriculum, you will feel yourself contented that yes, I have done justice to this particular subject. Now, what are the principles of curriculum? I'm going to take them little quickly. The first one is child centeredness. Age, interest, capability, capacity, aspirations, need, and psychology of the learner should be taken into consideration. I cannot develop the same kind of curriculum which I'm developing for my first semester for my 10th semester students. Why? Because they are the final year students, they know the law, they're more mature, they have the understanding. But the first semester student just came from the college, they don't know basics of anything. So can you see that the difference has to be there? The second one is community centeredness. The social needs and the local needs of the learner should be taken into consideration while we construct the curriculum. For example, you given the activity to them, like a clinical activity, that go to the street vendors and collect the data. Now, few of my learners, they don't know the language of that particular area. Don't you think so that it will be very difficult for them? Answer is yes. So you have to see that while doing that kind of activity, now you need not to change the curriculum. What you need to do is make a pair where one can understand the local language and the other can be the part of it, and they will make a beautiful team. The next one is principle of balance or integration. It is related to the social environment of the student, integrated with cognitive, affective, and psychomotor objectives. Now, psychomotor skills are there, where the writing part of the person, it has to be balanced, like thinking, speaking, writing, and behaving. I'm again repeating: thinking, writing, speaking, and behaving. Why I'm using thinking? Because if your curriculum does not have a balance of thinking, it will be little, not to the up to mark. Writing also has to be there. Speaking also, because we are into a profession where if you don't have speaking skills, you are lagging somewhere or the other. And then social behavior, that means how you are treating your peers, how you are treating your teammates. Because I have seen more than two, that means even if there are three group of people, three people in a group, two says Ma'am, the third one has not worked. Boss says, ma'am, I have done everything. Both two of them have not worked. So even this kind of behavior is important, that you have to see that three of them will work. How you will make them work in the curriculum, that is important task. Principle of need, that it fulfills the need of the learner also. It shall not be like a waste. The subject, the activities in the curriculum shall not be of any use. Then, for example, somebody asked me one day that where you are gonna to take your students in the subject, like for the field visit in law of torts. Law of torts is a subject which is combined with what? There are two more subjects. I can take them. So, you have to see the opportunities rather than looking at the problem being the problem. The next one is utility. Curriculum should provide rich experience of both academic and social to the student. Friends, you have to see some of the gray topics are there which we academician may not be able to give them the justice. So what we have to do, we have to call the industry people, that okay, you come. At times we have to call the NGO people, at times we have to call the think tanks, at times we have to call the social activists. So there has to be balance of academics and other you know people, so that you will teach them what the subject is, how the subject work or implemented, they will teach. The next one is principle of creativity. As I have told you that the methodology you have used in 2025, if you are gonna to use that in 2026, I'm really sorry, you are not creative at all. Friends, I've seen, I've heard, I remember, first let me just tell you that Three Idiots, that orientation lecture of that particular director, if you remember, and how that press guy was making fun of him because he knows verbatim what he is gonna to say. That is not creativity. If you are repeating yourself every year by year, in law, change is the only constant, because it may be possible the law made by parliament, supreme court is challenging, and the principle given by supreme court, parliament is overruling it. So why, we have to be updated and creative, because there are few things which will never be changed, but there are other things which will be so dynamic in nature that we all have to learn, revise, revisit. Next one is principle of preservation and transmission of the knowledge, traditions and standards of conduct. If I am not having the connections of one particular knowledge to the other particular knowledge, I don't know basics of it. For example, if you all remember, we gives before making the before giving the units of the syllabus, that what are the prerequisites for the subject. If you yourself are not knowing about it, the next one is principle of variety of knowledge, the varying interest and needs. For example, while you are teaching, you have to connect X subject to the Y subject, so that excuse me, basics of things. For example, you are teaching criminal law and the students asked a question that uh, right to life. You're teaching criminal law, for example, murder, and question asked right to life. You don't know constitutional basics. Okay, you have studied the constitution, but you don't know the basics of it. Basics in the sense, you don't know the judgments of it, but student asked, what are you are going to do? Then please read the sister concerned laws when you are teaching any law. Principle of flexibility, enough time and sufficient chance to the student. Don't give them a task that okay, complete this by tomorrow. give them little time so that they'll think, but don't give them so relaxed time, sufficient, not, you know, they will see that, okay, we have 10 days, we'll do it, and they'll just wake up one night before and complete it. Give them some sufficient time, and it has to be part wise. Okay, X thing you have to give me by tomorrow, develop its objectivities, give me by day after, make it a final submission, give me 2 days later. So process will give you what? The process will engage the students so that they also will be knowing that, okay, this is stepwise and I have to complete this. The next one is principle of contemporary knowledge. Modern or current knowledge to the student has to be given. That means you teach them basics also, some leading cases and examples also, but give them contemporary examples too. Give them the case which has happened yesterday also, so that they will be knowing, okay, in today's time this is happening. I am not saying that R versus Prince is not a good judgment. We shall not teach them. It is authority. We have to teach them, but also teach them the modern judgment so that they will be able to compare it. Now, what are the stages of curriculum development, my friends? First is development phase, second is implementation phase, and the third one is evaluation phase. What are the steps for these development? First, you have to plan it. First, you have to make up a plan. It's like an architecture. Okay, you just visualize, okay, like this, I have to do it. Then start developing it. When you develop it, it may be possible something is here and there, you need to manage it, then do the management thing, then implement it. How you'll implement? Teach your first batch, and after teaching, don't forget about it, then assess it. After assessment, revise it. So these are the four stage development: planning, content and method, implementation, and evaluation. On the right side of my laptop, the first one is, let's identify the issue, problem and need from the curriculum development team. Okay, it may be possible that, for example, there are other friends of yours who are teaching the same subject, so you have to form a team, then conduct the assessment and analysis. Multiple brains will make the most use of it. Okay, one thing you need to see, one thing you see, so that there will be proper assessment to it. Then state the intended outcomes. Okay, X is saying something, Y is saying something, Z is saying something. Then select the content. Okay, I think after comparison, Y is saying right. Design an experimental method, then teach each other. And after teaching, the test and revise the curriculum is important. So quickly, let's understand what is the planning stage. Identify the country and project key stakeholder. It may be possible that you are not from India, so that's why I have wrote identify the country. What are the project key stakeholders in law? Exclusively, you have to see that who are your stakeholders. So for me, advocates, that is practitioners. For me, academicians. For me, learners. It may be possible for me, the people from judiciary. Those are the key stakeholders. Then stakeholders and partners decide on clinical priority areas for a project and curriculum packages. So it is important that, because all the stakeholders knows, studied that particular subject, so they'll see that how that particular subject can, or where are the gray areas of that particular subject. Then they make a review working group, and it happens whenever we develop any curriculum. We make a curriculum committee, and the curriculum committee develops that particular curriculum. And in that particular process, it may be in the board of studies, it may be in the academic council, it may be the revisits to that particular curriculum has happened. What is the development two, my friends? And honestly speaking, these phases are not exclusively only for law. These are general in nature, so it may be possible some of them are not applicable to us also. Second is development, the stakeholders and the project leadership. What is the project leadership for law? It's the main particular person, the teacher who's going to teach that particular subject, approves the curricular developed by them. The curriculum development begins with regular feedback. Now it's again, I'm repeating myself, once you made a particular curriculum does not mean that it's final. Regular feedbacks and regular updates are required. Then implementation, printing part comes. Training, it's also very important, because every subject cannot be taught by everybody. And I'm telling you, until you have not, even if you taught that particular subject 10 to 20 times, if you are not brushing your skills does not mean that teaching skills or interaction skills. I'm not talking about those skills. I'm talking about the curriculum skills, that you have not read the advanced judgment, you have not read the international regulation which has come for that particular topic. I'm really sorry, we are lagging behind. We teachers are little lagged behind because of the necessary or unnecessary pressure on us, that we are not able to regularly in touch or update ourselves. But for the implementation we have to do it, and also we have to take some basic trainings for that particular subject. Like law teachers india is having the faculty development program for specific subjects. So those are the training at least for law people. Otherwise we don't have programs, nobody teach or how to teach. Simply an LLM degree or PhD degree will give me a license to teach. But is anybody teaching us how to teach? Earlier, a kind of, relationship between professor and lecturers were there. Professors used to go and teach, and lecturers used to support them, that, okay, let me learn how to teach. But that has gone. Those were the days. The next is in this planning. I think, yeah, planning we have understand. Development a team we have done. Conduct needs and assessment we have done. What is the content and method? Friends, the learners are able to see a result of participation in the curriculum activities. For example, unit 1, how I used to do is, unit 1, for example, we used to have 4 unit in our university. So unit 1 largely takes the time because the learners just come, they're settling, all those things. I used to take, every weekly after my 3 class, the 4th class used to be the activity. It may be activity with marks or without marks, but it used to be the activity of those 3 classes, that what we have done. Also, one activity I have started, I used to have the 60 classes and 60 students in my class. I used to give them one student per day, 10 minutes to a learner who is going to summarize what we have studied. So that is also one of the activity in my curriculum, that okay, the students are engaged because one of their friend is going to teach them that particular topic which I have already completed, and the quick revision or recap the student is used to do. There has to be experimental methods, they're very lesser in law. But friends, do the experimental methods, like for example, you give them a role play for any topic. Now it depends on the topic, syllabus, subject, content. Give them a role play or give them a moot court exercise. Give them a mock trial. Give them a something, so that they will be doing an experiment, or give them or ask them to write a research paper on it, so that they will be experimenting on it, they will be learning it by doing. how we can implement it, produce the curriculum project. How you do it, you have to suggest that how or what kind of curriculum materials. For example, your macro teaching and micro teaching and macro teaching plan will tell that okay, these are my materials in my this thing, or this is one or two good courses on my subject. These are good YouTube links for some good professors. But don't think that every topic you need to provide a YouTube link. Otherwise, student will go and watch that YouTube lecture only. They are not going to come to us and ask us to study. They are free to explore all the online material. But the point here comes it as you know uh, they may not be able to comprehend that what is right and what is wrong. If you'll give that in curriculum, they will ascertain okay, that is right. Do not do that. Test and revise curriculum, yes, a simple sample evaluation form has to be provided to the students after or midterm. After midterm, give them that form, that what you want to change in the curriculum. Let them reply. Recruit and train facilitators. This I want to tell all the administrators that please give proper training, regular training to the facilitators, so that they will be able to know, able to understand, able to comprehend that how I'm gonna to be the facilitator. Because of the time, that feedback matters, everything is so important. The facilitators is always in the fear of bad feedback or wrongfully, they used to do it. What they do it is they become friends to the students, rather than being friendly with them or being little easy with them. They become friends with them, so that they will get the good feedback, or they will not get the bad words. That is also wrong. So please train the facilitators that okay, this particular subject has to be teach in that particular manner. Then implement the curriculum strategies to promote and use the curriculum as discussed in these steps. Lastly, evaluation and reporting. Two types of evaluation has to be done: formative and summative. What are the formative and summative? You have to give a particular lastly summative type, that okay, once you made the complete curriculum and this has to be implemented in that way. Then lastly, reporting and securing resources, getting the result into the hands of people who can use them. The facilitator shall know that okay, these things I need to change in my curriculum, and finally the facilitator submit it to the department that okay, this is the revision required in the curriculum. Otherwise, what happened is 10, 15, 20, 30 years old curriculum is going on, it's going on, nobody's bother about it. Now, what is the types of curriculum? I quickly take this. The first one is written, supported, taught, tested. We think that curriculum means curriculum. It's not like that. There are 4 forms of it. The first one is it's a written curriculum. What is a written curriculum? Written curriculum is the component of authentic literacy, the ability to read, write, and think effectively. If that is the part in the curriculum, it's a written curriculum. Second one is supported curriculum. What is supported curriculum, my friends? It is a curriculum as reflected in and shaped by the resources allocated. That means I am giving the reading materials, I'm giving the YouTube lectures, I'm giving the online courses. That is supported curriculum. What is a taught curriculum? Whatever in my micro and macro learning plan, whatever I'm giving it to them, that is a taught curriculum. What is a tested curriculum? Tested curriculum is the evaluation based, that okay, whatever am I teaching them, whatever am I giving it to them, how much they are able to understand. There is a C curve in the what we call in the mapping, I'm forgetting the name. The C curves tells, because this bottom and this bottom is the lowest to the highest. If in your evaluation the C curve is there, C curve means there are slow learners, and there are good learners, and there are okay learners. So C curve tells that okay, if for example everybody is passed, there is no C curve. That means the tested curriculum fails. Then there is a recommended curriculum also. What is recommended curriculum is the high level of generality, which like you give them, this is your goal, you have to achieve. So this is little beyond. What is the you know taught curriculum? I've told you. Tested curriculum, I've told you. What is learned curriculum? Learned curriculum is the how they learn from the society. For example, you've given them a clinical test that go and get this particular result from people. For example, uh, learn the behavior of society. So it is learned curriculum. What is subject area curriculum? The subject which gives the knowledge is the subject area curriculum. What is a discipline design? This is interesting. It says that discipline knowledge is the key aspects of the curriculum design. We design some content for the school to identify the disciplines, so that for example, I am making a survey within my organization that how many of you have understand this particular topic. For example, out of my 60 students, 30 has raised their hand. That means there is a discipline design that nobody is making the teacher happy. The 30% population only been able to understand that. That is how you discipline the students, how you discipline the structure for using, because how otherwise you will collect the empirical data. Everybody lies in the empirical data. So that is why this discipline design is also very interesting. What is broad field design? To knowledge, the knowledge and understanding pertinent to the whole area of study. For example, a brief overview of what is correlation design. Correlation is a design employed by those who do generally, that there are times when separate subject requires some linkage. Like I cannot teach research alone. I have to take examples of different law topics or different areas. That is correlation design. Child centered curriculum, we have learned. Experience centered curriculum is what? Where, they have to give some of the experience. For example, feedback in the curriculum is experience centered. It's there. Feedback is part of curriculum. Okay. Then what is romantic radical design? Teachers are organized not to strengthen their own professional security, but rather encourage the students to to learn that okay, what are the challenges for this. For example, uh, we are in, at least in law school, we are having all those legal literacy camps, law awareness, or law days. What are those? The student goes to the society, write the problem of other people, give them clinical legal education. In the clinical legal education, give them some suggestions, security, safety. Those are the romantic design, that the teaching which you have taught them in the regular classroom, now they are getting the practical exposure to it. The last one is humanistic design. The humanistic model of education stems from a human or potential movement in psychology. It says that how the cognitive outcomes comes. For example, when 2013 Nirbhaya, that thing, that case has happened, I've seen so many lawyers were on the road. That is humanistic design, that they know the law, they know the loopholes of the law, and they were preaching and asking for people's right. uh Problem solving curriculum we know, and life situation design we also know, because these two are applicable in law, where the societal problems or how to have balance of humans into the society is by you know legal practices. What is the life situation designs? We have seen that privacy in constitution, property in IPC, contract, property laws. We have seen that those are the life situation design, marriage, family life, family law. All those things they have, given the approaches or problem solving, approach to the students. Now these are dynamics. This is very technical to learn, but I'm going to try my easiest method to you all. There are two models given by these two philosophers. First is Ralph Tyler. In 1950 he gives the one model of curriculum. He said that it's an inquiry model. Okay, first is objective, second is content, third is method, and fourth is evaluation. How he has started, I'm putting my finger on my screen on the society. That everything, like everything means every curriculum has started from society. Because friends, we teach the learner so that the learner will go back to the society and learn livelihood. Okay, so society, and then comes to the sources. Who comes? Subject matter and learner. So now these four dynamics has come to the society, gives the sources to the learner on a subject matter. Why? For a tentative objectivity. What is a tentative objectivity? Now come to the philosophy. What is the philosophy? Philosophy says that there is psychology. Screens means what is going on in the life. Okay, screens means not the TV screen or laptop screen. Screens means whatever is happening in the society, plus the psychology of a person. So what is a tentative objective? Let's say a tentative objective of a human is to earn livelihood, to settle in the society, to have a happy family. Now, what is the philosophy behind it? Because a person has to learn how to live in the society. So, how to live in the society means he will see his surroundings, plus his own psychology will be applicable. Now, why I'm saying psychology, my friends? Because every human is different. Whosoever is listening me here, you all are different and special person here. Your screens means your life, your society, your life circle is different. Plus comes as the, all these things comes from tentative objective to the precise objective. What are the non-tentative objective? I learned this, I live here, I live this. That tentative becomes the precise after the psychology, society, and the philosophy, that what am I going to do in life becomes it. And then selecting experiences means those 60 students of my class will not get the same job. Why? Because their screens are different, their philosophy are different, and their psychology is different. And lastly, it comes as evaluation. That is why the C curves matter. In curriculum, the C curves matter. There may be low learner and there may be a good learner. These are few things. I'm skipping all these things because of the time. I'm coming to the Hilda's Taba's grassroots models. Coming to it. Now this is circle. Need assessment. Do we need assessment? Yes, we need assessment. Why we need assessment? Somebody asked me one day. When we are teaching everybody in the same class, why we need to know that who is getting how much marks? Can anybody answer me? I also started thinking the same day. When I'm teaching everybody with the same approach, why I need to learn that how much they have learned? That is why we need assessment. Now you have to formulate some specific objectives, select the content, organize the content, then do the pilot testing. What is the pilot testing? I think everybody is aware. Do the evaluation, then protocol amendment, then amend your curriculum. I'm skipping Hilda's grassroots model because it's self-explanatory. I'm coming to this. What is conventional curriculum design? Quickly, let's understand. It's teacher centered. Contents are heavy. It's exam based. conventional curriculum design used to focus on the factual mastery, that okay, what has happened in that case, what has happened in the judgment, how that particular section work, what is the principle laid down in that particular, this thing. I'm skipping the exercise, you can do at your own. What is contemporary curriculum design? It's the learner centric and skill driven. Nowadays we all are going on the on a note that let's have the outcome based education, OBE. I'm sure you all must have heard this term. Let's have outcome based education. This outcome based education does not mean that the student or the learner shall know everything. No, shall have all the jobs. Answer is no. Outcome based education means this: the learner shall have awareness about the learning, the objectives what you have made, the learning outcome what you have made, whether you have achieved your outcomes or not. That is the outcome based education. What is the digital interaction? Yes, in the contemporary curriculum design we believe on the digital interaction, that let me give a video to my student and ask them, write a review about it, or what you have understand by that particular video. What are the implementation challenges, my friends? The first is resistance. We teachers think that we know everything. First problem. Second problem is we teachers think that the Socratic method is the best method of teaching. We go to the class, everybody has to be silent in the class. I will go, I have prepared the PPT, I am going to use the board, I am going to teach you. You can only ask me question, but at the end. Why? Why I need a pin drop silence in the class? Because my curriculum says that. If there is a debate in my curriculum, why can't the students speak? Why can't I take my students to the canteen and ask them, okay, today we'll have class here? The answer is there are limited resources, there is limited approaches, there are rigid systems. I have seen the private organizations, if there are students, even two students are stood up, next day the dean is asking, why, what is happening in your class? Because those are the rigid systems. The next is infographic, the roadmaps with obstacle leading to innovations. We think that a silent class would be the best class. My answer is no. A class with questions, the learners with doubts, does not make the learners dumb, does make the learners are taking interest. If your learners are not asking questions, you don't be proud of yourself, my friends, because it may be possible that the learners are sitting quietly because they're not listening. Nowadays I've seen the students are putting earbuds in their class and sitting in the class. Is this the my curriculum says, if they're not asking question, it's your duty to ask questions. Your curriculum has to be like this, that you will ask most of the question, let them answer, or it would be vice versa. But if it would be vice versa, I'm telling to all of you, you have to start the work 3 times at least. Why? Because they will have silly doubts. They are cute learners, they will have silly doubt for sure. But if you are not able to answer those silly doubts, they'll not make you a bad teacher, but will make you a teacher who will do more and more for the learners. With this, I want to conclude, my friends, that curriculum development is or focuses on the emerging needs of the students in their present life. Because after 5 years, or because law is largely for 5 years, after 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, they're gonna to be the part of the society, they're gonna to be a professional. Will the course, will the subject, will the syllabus, will the activities done in that particular subject be helpful for him in his professional life? We have to make the curriculum for that particular time. The approaches prepare the students to face the present rather than the future. On the whole, the issues should relate to the development stages of the students. Blend the theory with practice, ethics with technology. I don't say to my students that chat gpt is bad, and no teacher will say, but do not make your work from chat gpt. You can use, I am not saying that do not use it, you can use it, but can I take somebody's brain and copy it? Answer is no. Can I question my question to somebody? Yes, you can. Whether to copy the answer or not, do not copy somebody's answer. Answer should be yours. That has to be understanding that how am I gonna to use the technology with ethical practices. That has to be my approach. With this, I want to, these are some suggestive readings. With this, I'm gonna to take a break here and hand over the mic to the moderator so that she can tell me that if there are any question. I'm stop sharing the screen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Dr. Naftika, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful session. I enjoyed every bit of it, and I could relate with a lot of things. And the questions we are having in the chat boxes are more than enough. Then that can be answered right now. But I'll ask Sia. Sia, please see if you can see and justify some questions at least, because we are already having short of time. But I would like to have more answers for the questions. She's been a wonderful speaker. Please. Yes, yeah. There's some problem. Should I read
Yes,
the
ma'am, of
questions?
course.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
Am-
audible.
I was not able to. I was.
Yeah, seemingly there's some problem from your network side. Seemingly, but even
Thank
it's
you
not
so
so
much,
clear now.
Dr. Nal. That was very interesting thing to go.
Sia, Sia, please,
It is
dear, you're not audible.
definitely.
The voice is breaking.
Okay,
Sia, voice is
I
breaking,
In
Sia.
that case,
I'll
let me
take the
just proceed.
question. It's okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I'll take
Yeah.
the question. So I can read few questions in the chat box. The first question what I can read is, what strategy should be kept for interdisciplinary learning? Sheetal, we have to understand that whenever we are teaching a subject which is interdisciplinary in nature, first of all, a balance of both the subject. Both the subject means, for example, you are teaching, let's see, management subject in law school. So you cannot get the interest of the law students for the management subject. So there has to be some legal examples, some case studies, because I remember one of the management faculty of mine, he teaches Harshad Mehta case, for his topic. So student bus for sure will take interest to the case laws more than of the particular thing. So this is my answer. So please make a blend of both the subject, the main subject also, and your subject also. Should we need to change curriculum every year as time is changing very fast? Dr. Geet, you are saying, you have answered your question yourself. I am not saying change, but revisit. Revisit is the right word. Every academic year you have to revisit, and I'm not asking you to change the syllabus. You need to revisit the curriculum. You need to see that whether the cases you have given were the old age cases, there are new cases, there are some principles which has been changed. So revisit it, because it will be more advanced, more to the pace, and relevant to the present academic year. I can see one more question. Please, what is the difference between curriculum and syllabus? I have given that questions reply. So if I may not answer the question, and anything else?
Dr. Natika,
Okay.
there has been 2-3 things where the
Um,
interdisciplinary approach. So I think there are 2-3 questions linked to it.
Yes, ma'am.
How can they develop an interdisciplinary approach?
Okay, Dr. Kalpesh has copied some of the questions, so I will take first. The question is how often we should revise curriculum for core papers like jurisprudence, and what activities other than debates and quizzes to make jurisprudence more interesting. Let me tell you, whosoever has given this question, jurisprudence is such a subject which every student think that it is the most, we don't want to study. But I'll tell you, one of my professor who taught me jurisprudence, she made that subject so interesting because for the theories part, I'm not telling that how you have to teach the jurisprudence, but for the theories part, every theory she has related to the cases. When she has come to the rights approaches, she has taken us to different field visits. For the personalities, she has given us all those cases of personalities. So for jurisprudence you have to do little extra rather than the subjects like IPC. For curriculum development, yes, what you can do for jurisprudence, rather than only going for debates, quizzes, take them to field visit, take them to the social homes, so that they will see that whether the practical approaches to the jurisprudence is given or not. So these are my suggestions for jurisprudence. I think I have taken most of the questions. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a great session. I personally learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else has done the same. Bhavna has raised her hand. Give me a moment and I'll unmute
Yes,
her.
please let them talk. Let them talk. Because it's rare that we get to meet everyone and such people like. So please allow her, Dr. Bhavna, please.
हेलो मैम, गुड इवनिंग।
Good evening.
मैम मेरा
Good
क्वेश्चन
evening.
ये है, जैसे आपने बताया कि डिफरेंट लेवल ऑफ मतलब अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेवल के स्टूडेंट्स अगर क्लासरूम में हैं तो उनको किस तरह से हम किस मेथड्स के थ्रू उनको सिखा सकते हैं?
भावना, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल you have to understand your students कि आपके she asked me in हिंदी, तो I'm replying in हिंदी। आपके बच्चे, पहले तो आपको उनको अपना बच्चा मानना पड़ेगा, मेरे को ऐसा लगता है। दूसरा, आपको ये देखना पड़ेगा कि कुछ टॉपिक्स बहुत ज्यादा सिंपल होते हैं और कुछ टॉपिक्स बहुत ज्यादा हार्ड होते हैं। अगर आपको लगता है कि वो हार्ड टॉपिक्स को समझने के में नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं, जैसे कि हाउ आई डिवाइड, आई एम नॉट सेइंग आपको भी ऐसे डिवाइड करना चाहिए। आई डिवाइड माई लेक्चर इनटू 4 पार्ट्स। फर्स्ट 10 minutes फॉर माई अटेंडेंस एंड जो मैंने पिछली क्लास में पढ़ाया है उसका इंट्रोडक्शन। Next 25 minutes only I teach them active teaching. Okay, but 25 minutes is zyada, I can't teach them. It is 35 minutes. Then next 10 minutes that students जिसने आके मेरी क्लास में मैंने जो 25 minutes में पढ़ाया है वो 10 minutes का recap. It has made my 45 minutes. Last 15 minutes are for those students जिनको समझ नहीं आया है। उसके बाद ईदर दे आस्क मी क्वेश्चन और आई आस्क क्वेश्चन। मुझे पता है कि कौन कौन मेरी क्लास में बहुत अच्छा है, कौन कौन थोड़ा कम अच्छा है। आई डोंट से देम दे आर नॉट अच्छा, बट थोड़ा कम अच्छा। मैं फिर उन्हीं से क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ, या तो वो क्वेश्चन का आंसर देते हैं, नहीं तो फिर मैं उन्हें आंसर देती हूँ। और जब मैं उन्हें आंसर देती हूँ तो तब उन्हें तीसरी बार समझ में आता है। प्लस
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सो मच।
5 मिनट जो मेरे लास्ट के रहते हैं उनमें मैं उन्हें रोज होमवर्क देती हूँ। आई एम सो सॉरी, मैं बहुत खराब टीचर, मैं रोज उन्हें एक होमवर्क देती हूँ, चाहे उन्हें कोई केस पढ़ के आना हो, चाहे जो पढ़ा है वही लिख के लाना हो, बिकॉज लिखने की आदत छूट गई है। सो इसीलिए आई डू लाइक दिस। सो थैंक यू।
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सो मच।
Are there any other questions for Dr. Nautiyal?
See, I think the questions are over, but there are lots of applause from everyone.
Yes,
We are
definitely.
thankful to
So
you.
much, I am truly indebted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming, and we hope to have you again on many more events. I think with that, we can end today's session, and we will
Yeah.
see you all tomorrow for day 5 tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Natal. Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
was a wonderful time with you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am, for
you.
having me here.
Dr. Grace, good evening. Thank you so much, all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
I request
Thank you,
all the
Sia.
participants to fill the attendance sheet as soon as they can, as we will be closing it shortly. Thank you.
Okay, Sia. Thank